Hello everyone and welcome back for another Miss Ink Stamps video. I'm Cassie. Today we are going to be making a Get Well card using this adorable magical stamp set called Slugs and Kisses. It's just perfect for all of your magic fans and those that need to get well. We also have our Candy Slugs die, and we're going to be using that one as well. And then we have a couple of stencils. We have our Squared Away stencil. We're going to use that for our flooring. And then we're also going to use the Magic Stars stencil. You can't really see them that well here, but when I start using them, you'll be able to tell pretty well. So let's pull out our images that we're going to stamp. I wanted to stamp everything, but I decided just on these two images. And so I'm this is the first time I'm using them, so I did rub them on my hand a little bit. The oils have a tendency to kind of condition the stamp just a little bit, and then it stamps a little bit better. You can also use just like an eraser as well, rub that over the top of your image and get that ready to stamp. And I've stamped those out using some blackout ink by Ink on 3. And as you can tell, I'm using Olo markers. Those are alcohol markers if you're unfamiliar. And so I'm just going to blend these colors. I'm making his hair red, and I'm trying to do my best to put those colors up on the screen for you as I go. But I'm going to go from light to dark. We're only going to use the one color on his face. I'm not doing any shading there. And his eyes will be green. And that's just a Y0. And then we're going to move on to his cape and his pants. Now, I started off with WG3 for his cape. I end up going a lot darker, but this is part of the reason why I usually start light, because you can always add the color on top. Obviously, once it's on there, it's hard to take it away. So I started out going light, and then once I did his pants, I was like, well, I think I want to keep his pants that color, so we may have to go a little bit darker. So these are the warm colors. I'll bring in the WG5 to add some shadowing to his pants, and then started just doing the shadowing on his cape and decided eventually that I need this to be a little bit darker. So I will bring in the WG7. And I know we're going with not a lot of color here, just mostly grays, but since it's a magical cape, we're going with black. So there's our WG7. And then I'll blend some of that out using that WG5. And then I eventually just fill the space with that WG5. Trying to make sure that the tip of my pen isn't going to get too saturated, because sometimes that does happen. And you can tell it's going to do that when the tip of the pen gets really wet looking. And if that does happen, just wipe it on a microfiber cloth real quick and you should be good to go. Juiciness is never the problem with these stamps, that's for sure. They are very juicy. And then we're using the WG9 for his shoes. All right, I think we're done with the gray, so let's bring in some color. We're going to color our slugs with that YG 2.3. And they're pretty small, so I'm not going to add any extra color to them. And then we're going to color in that bucket using some browns. We've got OR 3.7. I will add a little bit darker color to the bucket, but we'll start with our OR 3.7. Just trying to make sure I get around those slugs. And that one did get a little juicy there. Didn't want it to put too much color down, so I did wipe it real quick. Like I said, it doesn't happen that often, but I'm always trying to be aware of it. And then we'll bring in that next color, which is the OR 3.8. And then we're going to tack down our matching dies and run this through our die cutting machine, and we'll have both of our images ready to go. I do want to do a little bit more die cutting, so I'm going to take both of these slugs and we are going to color them with that YG 2.3. So I'm just putting a patch of that color down on my cardstock, and then I'll die cut that out. Once they're die cut out, I'll put them back in there, and then I can add a little bit more shadowing to the bottom of them. And then we can blend that color a little bit more. So there you go. Our slugs are ready. Now we can start working on our background. Love this. So I have it tacked down with a little bit of mint tape to my Tonic magnetic platform. And I've brought in that Squared Away stencil, and we're just going to use the magnets to hold that down. I'm using pumice stone along with my blending brush. So the pumice stone is the distress ink. And then we'll move this away. You can see how cool that looks. And then we can move our Post-it tape or our mint tape down just a little bit, and then we can start working on the rest of that background. Now this is going to look fairly splotchy. Hang with me here. It's going to look cool eventually. That color is chipped sapphire, and I brought in another blending brush, and we're just blending that color all along. This paper that I'm using is just a white cardstock I had in my stash. It's not like formulated very well for blending, but I'm not worried about it because in the end it looks pretty cool. This is a nighttime sky, so I don't mind that it looks the way that it does. I'm bringing in some black soot now and another blending brush, just the black one that I have, and I'll blend the black around the edges. And again, it still looks splotchy, but meh, I don't care. So now I'm bringing in my Magic Stars stencil, and I am going to bring in some solar paste. Now, this is from Simon Hurley Create. It is a really beautiful paste. It's like a golden color. It's called Golden Hour. And we're just going to put that all over those stars. Now, what makes this solar paste so cool is that it looks like a light yellow here, but on darker backgrounds, it really shines. If you did it on white, it'd have a little bit of color, but it would mostly just look white. So this stuff is so pretty. I need that to dry a little bit, so I'll set that off to the side, clean up my mess, and then I am going to bring in a solar spray. Now, these are new. I'm using the color Beluga. It's a blue. You just want to make sure you shake that up at the bottom, get all that mica spray spread around in there. And I'm just going to spritz that on my background and kind of let that sit for a minute. And as it does, it's going to, get a little bit deeper, but take a look at that in the light. All that shimmer we have going on. Oh, I just love this background. It's so pretty. So now we can attach it down to our card base, which just measured 5.25 inches by 8.5 inches, and it was scored at 4.25. So it's a side folding A2 size card. And then I'm just being careful because I'm pretty sure it's mostly dry, but I didn't want to take the chance and squish the stars. And then I'm going to use some foam squares on the back of our bucket and on the back of our little magical student. And then I'll peel off that release paper, kind of trying to decide where I want him to go. I wish I would have put him a little bit more in the middle, but it ends up working out because I use the sentiment to kind of frame it up and let your eye do what it wants to do, which would be to work from, in this case, it'll go from left to right down, from top to bottom. I've got a piece of black sentiment cardstock. I'm going to ink that up, my sentiments up with some juicy embossing ink. And of course, because I'm going to do some embossing, Miles had to come in. So I'm trying to move quickly without him making a mess of my embossing powder. Because, oh my goodness, if you watch my videos, it seems like that cat just knows when I'm going to do some embossing. So I did heat set that, and now I'm going to trim these sentiments down. And then now that they're all trimmed down, we're just going to use some liquid glue to adhere those down to the front of our card. And then I'll put the slug, one of the slugs on top of the sentiment there because I didn't cut it perfectly straight. So if I put that slug on top, it'll make it look better, right? And then I'll glue the other one down to the bottom. So sorry you're feeling sluggish, better out than in. And then I'm going to stamp Slugs and Kisses on the inside of the card. And I am going to glue down this last little slug on the inside also. He's going to be down there by the Slugs and Kisses. And then now that's going to finish off the card for you today. I hope you like it as much as I enjoyed making it. If you do, please hit that like button. Definitely consider subscribing if you haven't already done so. And be sure to check out all that Miss Ink Stamps has going on over on their blog, Facebook page, and Instagram for more crafty inspiration. Thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you soon.